like to do a little bit more like informal too. So I'll probably be asking some questions and things throughout. So the market's shifting as everyone kind of knows, but I want to get started and tell you a little bit about me. I know people know me in Columbus, but since this is the one team stuff, so I was licensed in 2013. Was named Real Producers on the Rise in 2018, Columbus Realtors 10 under 40 2019, and then what's more important to me is that I've been a team leader here in Columbus for 3.5 years. So I had another Keller Williams in Columbus, and then here at Capital Partners and or consultant since May. I was at Capital Partners for 3 years. So I built my business on open houses and note cards and social media and video, which we'll go over some of that today. And then what I'm really passionate about is helping agents, which is why I'm back in the team leader role here at Consultants. I know the industry like the back of my hand. I will put myself up against anyone when it comes to that. And then also just the Cleveland Browns. I like to win because they never do. So that's just a little bit about me. So starting off, how many of you guys have read Shift before? Just either show of hands so you have read it. What do you think about Shift, the book? I personally, I like it better than MREA. I think it's more, gives you more things to actually do. Yeah, you agree? Cool. So one of the things that they start out with is your mindset. So in a shifting market, you have to get real and get right is what Gary always says. So your life is either going to be about your problems or about your opportunities. It's just all how you're going to look at things in life, which that can be about anything really. Are you going to focus on your problems or are you going to focus on what opportunities are out there? And usually when there are problems, there's more opportunity. When there is a shifting market, there's more opportunity to grow. So a lot of the things that I think we focus on as agents and as an industry are all the headlines. And we talked a little bit about this in our top 20% here this past week, all the myths around that. So if you read the headlines or you're listening to the news, it seems like the real estate market's just crashing and we're going south real fast. But when we broke down our numbers, so here in Central Ohio, there's only really about a difference of 100 sales compared to last year. So if you just listen to the headlines, it would make it seem like there's a lot fewer sales, where right now it's only a difference of about 100. We broke down expireds and all that. And the difference with that is there's a little bit more this year, but month to date in September, it's actually lower. And then also with the mortgage. So last week, I don't know if you've heard, but the Fed dropped the rates. So there was supposedly more mortgage applications. Well, that's according to all the headlines, but when you read in and dig deeper, 60% of those mortgage applications were actually refis. There weren't people going to purchase homes. So just really getting around the myths and focusing more on the opportunities and not the problems, because most of the problems are myths anyways. So another thing is you can't control the market, but you can control your outlook and response to the market. So again, shifting that mindset, you can't focus on the things you can't control because you're never going to win if you do that. So you have to control the controllables and focus on the things that you yourself can control. And a lot of times what issues struggle with is number 3. It's about knowing what to do and then doing it. I hear it time and time again where agents will say, hey, I show up to the office, but I don't know what I should do. Or I want to get involved. I want to do more, but I'm not sure where to start. And a lot of times we just overwhelm ourselves because we're listening to all the noise around rather than just narrowing it down and focusing on the things that we actually know we need to be doing. So expenses are another big part that we need to focus on in a shifting market. So one of the quotes from the book that I really like is fear of financial loss is a more powerful motivator than the opportunity for financial gain. So when you really start to pay attention to that, the big question I have is, do we as agents, or are you specifically doing things because you're afraid of losing something or not being able to pay for something? So are you more motivated because you look at your pipeline and see you don't have any deals in the pipeline and now you spur into action because of that? Are you more motivated because you look at your bank account and you see you don't have as much money in there as you thought you did or you did in years past, and now that spurs you into action? Um, a lot of times I feel like we respond more that way than actually responding to gain. So one of the myths, again, back to that has kind of fallen by the wayside over this past year is a lot of agents think their business has grown, but in reality, it's just your volume has grown. You haven't actually grown your business. It may seem like it has, or that you've made more money, but it's just because home prices are going up. So it makes it seem like your business has grown, but in reality, it's probably gone down. So what we need to go back and focus on is, did you have good habits, or was the market just good? Were you making money because the market was just good, or did you actually have those good spending habits and putting it towards the business where your business was going to grow? And then number four is it's one of the obvious ones. So get your money smart again. Eliminate what you aren't using. A lot of times when the market's good, we sign up for 4 million different things because we're like, oh, this will help us. This will create some leverage for us. And then we forget that we're paying for those. Is anyone else guilty of that? I'm guilty of that myself. Every November, December, I go back through it. I'm just like, oh yeah, I forgot I signed up for that in February or March. And I've been paying $10 here or $12 here for that. And it adds up over the course of a year. If you're paying $10 for something, over the course of a year, that's $120. So going back and making sure you're eliminating all the things that you don't need to be using. We really need to roll up our sleeves in a shifting market too. So when we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So I'm gonna read that again because I think it sits very heavy with me. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Does that resonate with anyone? How often do we like to change? Go ahead, Tracy. I saw you moving your mouth. I couldn't hear you on mute.
I said it depends. Sometimes I love change. Depends on where the next thing is. Sometimes I love change and sometimes not so much.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about that. So depends what the next thing is. Do you like to change because you're excited about an opportunity and that change can bring that, or are you okay changing because you just have to?
Of course, it's more fun if you want to, if you have something new, something interesting, something you can learn first that you enjoy, versus if there's already things that you do that you don't like to do, and then the change is now you got to do more of those things that you don't like to do. Well, then I don't like that change.
I think that's very, very fair. So I think a lot of us are like that. And
Yeah.
I think in business, especially if you're one of the producers in the business, you get set in their ways, right? To where we just start doing things and doing them, and we don't like to have to go back to what we used to do that got us to where we are today, kind of thing. That's one of the challenges for all of us, I think. So
I'm not fond of the new where we're going electronically, I guess I should say. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah, and
don't know why
it's
everything has to be 100% connected. Can I not just connect with you as a person and not put up I feel like everything's fake now. It's all some fake facade. If somebody tells you something, then that's the way it is, but you don't nobody like seems to dig deeper to find out the real truth of things.
yeah, you'll like where this is going to go though, because I'm very much about using the technology when it works and to leverage yourself. But Gary always says this is a contact sport. Real estate's a contact sport, and
Right.
it's all about what you just said. So you have to be able to pick up the phone and have conversations and be genuine and talk to people. So with that, so rolling up your sleeves. So what are your business priorities? So in a shift, there are really three things we need to really focus on, and that's lead gen, it's appointments, and it's your contracts, the things you're putting in contract. So it's easy to get sidetracked when the market's really good and things are coming in to go to different happy hours and to golf more and do those things. But when we're shifting, you really have to go back to the basics and focus on those three things. We can't just be out networking all the time, because networking only gets us so far unless you're networking with, a lawyers association or at the bar where lawyers are going to be. Those are the types of networking things I would be focusing on, not networking with other real estate agents or vendors. One of the other things, so is your staff growing your business or managing your business? So a lot of times as things are running smooth, it's your staff or the people on your team are just managing your business. They're managing where you're at. But if the market's shifting and your transactions are going down, what are they actually doing for you? Are they leveraging or are they weighing you down? We just talked about maybe cutting some expenses. So your staff should be helping you grow. If they're not, you need to reevaluate that and go back and find the right people who are going to help you grow. One of the big questions with them is, in order to do more with less, make sure the less can do more. So can those people do more work for you to help your business grow? Systems. So systems are huge in a shifting market, because you're trying to figure out ways that you can leverage to do more on a smaller budget. So one, are you using them? And what systems do you have in place? Can they be more streamlined? This is a perfect time to go back, and maybe those need updated, or maybe you need to put some in place. That's what we should be focusing on now too. So, and then one thing where a lot of agents forget, or they're just too afraid to ask, is what are your affiliates and vendor partners doing to help you grow? A lot of times we think, oh, it's sponsoring this or that, but we're afraid to ask them, hey, you have a sphere. I sent you 10 deals last year. Can you give me 10 people from your sphere so I can add them to my database? And we're afraid to do that or ask them as agents because we don't want to offend them or make them feel weird towards us, but we're giving them their business. Why shouldn't we be asking them to help us grow ours? And if their answer is no, then maybe they're not the right vendor partner for you, because I'm sure somebody will if you're sending them business. So that leads us to number 3 with both of those. So whether it's somebody on your team, your staff, something you're using or you're paying for that you're not using, or one of your vendor partners, to grow during a shifting market, you have to be willing to let go. So that's a very powerful statement. To grow, let go. It's something that's challenging for me, because I like people and I like trying to help them, but sometimes you gotta, cut the dead weight kind of thing. So with that, so those were the 3 big topics I wanted to cover from the shift book before we hide or go into some of the other tactics. So these are just the 12 tactics in the book. So again, get real, get right. That's the huge thing in a shifting market, is you have to get your mindset right and wrap your mindset around that we are actually in a shift. Sometimes we're in denial. Sometimes, again, it's the myth that you may hear, or it's the myth of volumes going up because home prices are going up, but your business is actually going down when you look at your numbers. So we got to remargin your business. So that's all the expenses. You got to do more with less. You got to find the motivated, get them to the table, catch people in your web, which is more lead gen. You got to price ahead of the market. We're shifting, so prices are going to be dropping. So you got to make sure you're pricing ahead of the market. We got to stand out from the competition, and then a lot of that's just knowing what's going on with the market. Creating urgency. The book talks a lot about, which we're starting to see here in Central Ohio. Buyers, they don't have the urgency because they feel like they have more options. So they just sit on the sidelines for even longer, even though now is the perfect time for them to be buying. So we got to figure out a way to expand the options. You got to master the market of the moment. And then you really got to bulletproof the transaction to keep things from falling out of contract, which that's another problem we're seeing here in Central Ohio, is a lot of things falling out of contract right now. So those are the main 12 tactics in the book. I wanted to dive into some other tactics that I personally think are big. So anyone have questions on this so far? How are you doing, Francis? You're on mute. All right, so we'll dive in. There's Emily. Emily's on. How are you doing, Emily? All right, so where to focus? A lot of times back to what I hear a lot of agents say sometimes is, all right, well, I'm showing up, but I don't know exactly what to do, or I don't know where to focus on. So one thing is, what is working well for you? Like that should be the focus, is what is working well. What isn't working, you should eliminate that. Why would we keep doing something that isn't working? And sometimes we tend to do that. We tend to focus on stuff that isn't paying off for us. A lot of times agents will farm, but they won't be consistent with it. And they're just throwing money out the window because they'll farm, they'll do a postcard every other month or every 3 months instead of actually focusing on the things that are working for them. So one thing to keep in mind is, why would you keep doing things that aren't working for your business? What you should be doing instead is double and triple down on what you're good at. So it doesn't matter what it is. If you're good at writing note cards, you should be writing 3 times as many note cards. If you're good at doing reels on Instagram, you should be doing 3 times as many reels on Instagram. Whatever that is, double and triple down on it and eliminate the things that you're not good at or that you're not going to do. Those should be your focuses, the things that you're actually going to do. A lot of times we lie to ourselves. So, and I'm guilty of this, especially in college. So in college, I'm a morning person, so I like getting up. So one thing that I used to do is I would always set classes for 8 in the morning when I was in college. I would go out the night before. Now, am I going to go to class at 8 in the morning if I'm out with all my friends doing stuff till 2 o'clock in the morning? Probably not. So that's what we tend to do in business too. We lie to ourselves about what we're going to do. We say, all right, well, we're actually going to pick up the phone and cold call. If you don't like cold calling, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. Quit lying to yourself. Because what that creates is you overwhelm yourself. So when you come in and you try to focus on it, you're telling yourself, I'm going to do these things, and then you don't. And then that just snowballs, that effect. So Monday of not doing anything turns into Tuesday of not doing anything, turns into Wednesday of not doing anything. And by the time you know it, a week's passed. And now you're like, man, I'm so behind because I was supposed to do all these things that I didn't do. And most of it comes from stuff you knew you weren't going to do anyways, but you try to trick yourself into thinking that you were going to do it. So part of the other thing with failure is you have to show up. So I'm very sticky on this. We talked about this in our office meeting here last month. Working from home, I think it's very hard to work from home. We can't focus on the things that we need to when we're at home. We tend to do the laundry, take the dog for a walk, maybe load the dishwasher, things that aren't actual business, but they help us feel like we're doing something and getting things accomplished. So you have to show up. I think it's always better to come into the office and work, whether that's for 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day. If you just do that consistently, it's going to compound and you're going to build that up. You really need to set yourself up for success. So this goes back to the lying to yourself. So tell yourself what you're going to do and focus on those things, because there is no easy button. If you've been in the business for a while, you know, if there was an easy button, or if there was one thing we could all do that was so easy, we would all do it, and the failure rate wouldn't be 80% after 2 years. We'd all be making, millions of dollars selling real estate. But the fact is, there is no easy button. And most of it is we just don't get out of our own way. That's really what it is. We don't focus on the things that we need to be doing or that we know we should be doing, and we're not showing up daily to do the things that we know we should be doing. So, all right. So lead gen. This is one of the things you really should be focusing on in a shifting market, especially this time of year. So whether you're going to lead gen and grow your business in Q4, or you're setting yourself up for Q1 and Q2, the spring market of next year. So lead gen is kind of like a nasty word, right? No one likes lead gen, but you have to get yourself into the mindset. Again, going back to their first point in the shift book, get real, get right. You have to attack lead gen. You have to be excited for it. It is the foundation of our business. We don't go on appointments. We don't show houses. We don't sell houses if we're not lead genning. And at some point in time, everything you've generated came as a lead, whether that's a sphere and you got a lead from your sphere saying they're interested in buying or selling, or whether that was a cold lead. But it all started with lead gen at some point. Your sphere didn't reach out to you to buy or list their home without knowing you were an agent. So at some point you had a conversation with them or they saw something that clicked for them that you are a real estate agent. So it all starts with lead gen. One of the tricks to get around lead gen, because no one likes it, I don't like it myself, but we have to do it. I just know it's the foundation of our business, is narrow in on what you're doing each day. So instead of saying, okay, today I'm going to go into the office and I'm going to lead gen, narrow in on what that specifically is. If you're doing open houses, maybe on Monday, okay, I'm going to do all my open house follow up today. On Tuesday, I'm going to call my Zillow leads or whatever leads you're getting. On Wednesday, I'm going to do all my note cards. It'll help get over the stigma of lead gen when you know and you have a focus on what specifically you're doing each day. One of the other tricks is don't refer to it as lead gen. So if you're time blocking and you're putting on your calendar lead gen from 10 to 12 or from 9 to 11 or whatever time you're picking, don't put it in there as lead gen. Put it in there as something that you're going for towards your goal. So if you have a goal to take your family to Disney, maybe on Monday when you're doing cold calls, instead of saying lead gen or cold calls, you're dialing for Disney. Because when you see that on your calendar, it's an instant reminder of why you're doing the thing you hate to do. It's your motivator of why you're going to do that thing. Note cards, and I'm just making these up. Note cards for Europe. Maybe you want to go to Europe with your family. All right, you're going to write these note cards because it's going to help you get to Europe. Marketing and social media, you're doing that because you want to retire early. Whatever that is, put that in the actual title for your lead gen because it's going to be a reminder every time you see your calendar when it comes up. And then the fourth point with lead gen is you always hear that you should do it first thing in the morning and you should time block out 9 to 11 every day to do your lead gen. And the reason is win the morning, win the day. We get so bogged down the rest of the day that if we don't focus on the foundation of our business first thing in the morning, come 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, if we're going to try and do lead gen then, what happens? You get phone calls, you get emails, you have contracts that are falling apart that you start dealing with all day long. And then you say, oh, I'll do that lead gen tomorrow. And then the same thing happens tomorrow. And again, that snowball effect, you don't end up doing it. So if you knock it out first thing in the morning, you got to swallow the frog, do the hardest thing you don't like, and turn your phone off when you're doing it so you don't have distractions, but knock it out first thing in the morning. And then instead of having the snowball in the negative way, have the snowball in the positive way where it starts just compounding week by week with it. So any questions on that? All right, so open houses. So I told you I built part of my business on open houses. And right now, this is a perfect time to be doing open houses because one, homes are sitting a little longer. So for years I heard, well, I don't even get a chance to do open houses because stuff goes in the contract before I can even get to the weekend. Now I hear the opposite. Well, no one came through the open house. We can't have it both ways. But you should be doing them. There's a reason why everyone says do open houses because they've worked for 50 years. We should be doing them consistently. So throw a wide net out there. The more you do, the better your odds are going to be. You should be doing open houses on like Thursday and Friday twilight open houses, Saturdays and Sundays. I know some agents who are very successful with this or big teams who they'll do 2 or 3 open houses on a Saturday and they create this whole like open house marketing plan around it where they may do an open house from 11 to 12:30 and then 1 to 2:30 and then 3 to 5, whatever that may be, to where it's all day they're just doing open houses and generating their business that way. One of the other things we tend to do that we need to get better at is don't just do them, have a strategy. So we say, oh, we're going to do an open house and we hope we get that one golden buyer who's going to come through and say, that says, oh, I want to buy this house and I want to use you as the agent. I don't know how many times I've heard that, maybe 2 or 3 times in 13 years that I've been licensed, that that's actually happened. So you need to have a strategy around how you're going to do it to generate those leads, to generate the people coming through. You should have signs posted everywhere. So signs should be out Thursday or Friday evening if you're going to do a Saturday or Sunday open house. And those are directional signs. Those aren't just the open house X day from this time to this time on your rider. You should put out the actual directional signs in the neighborhood. And then also, we should be door knocking or door hangers. I don't like doing door knocking, but I did do door hangers. I would walk the neighborhood and just throw up a door hanger on there. We cannot put things in mailboxes, so make sure you're not putting stuff in an actual mailbox. You can hang it on the mailbox, but don't open up and put in the mailbox. It's very easy now to track things with QR codes and all that type stuff and links. So we should be putting those on all the door hangers. That's a whole nother class of where we could get down a rabbit hole of that. But invite the neighborhood and make sure that you're inviting them to the open house. And then lastly, if you're doing all of this, use all of it for content. Excuse me. So when you're setting up the open house on the MLS or whatever marketing you're doing for it, make sure you're posting that as content, each stage of it. And you should do it for every open house that you're doing, because you want your sphere and your past clients or whoever's seeing it to see you consistently doing the things, because perception is reality, right? If it looks like you are so busy, they're going to want to work with you because they see that you're so busy. I used to take pictures and selfies when I'd be previewing houses when I first showed up and not even showing houses, but I'd take a selfie and say, out showing houses. And people would say, man, it seems like you're so busy. I didn't even have any clients. So it's that perception is reality. Make sure you're posting and using all of the content you can for even open houses. The money with open houses is in the follow-up. So chances are those folks that come through an open house are going through 2, 3, 4 other open houses that day. We tend as agents to do the follow-up is on Monday morning, or if we did a Saturday, maybe Sunday, we text them or we call them and, hey, what did you think of the house that you came through yesterday, 123 Main Street? Or, hey, did you like the house that you came through yesterday? No, they didn't. If they did, or what they thought, they would have told you when they were there. You wouldn't have to be doing the follow-up with it. So instead, how can we provide value in that follow-up? So what I used to do is on Monday, I would send them 3 homes that were similar. Hey, Tracy, I have no idea if you're interested in these. You came through 123 Main Street yesterday. Just in case you are, here are 3 homes that are similar in the same price point, in the same neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. And then send them those 3 homes. On Thursday, if they haven't responded back, hey, Tracy, it's Josh again. You came through 123 Main Street last weekend, the open house. No idea if you're interested in checking these out, but just in case you are, here are 3 more this weekend, and give them 3 houses that are similar that are going to be open houses that weekend. And I would repeat that every week until they tell you to stop. And when you're doing it so often, you'll be able to track and group people together. So it's not going to seem overwhelming, because you're going to know neighborhoods and stuff like that, to where you just be able to send the same 3 houses to multiple people. But what you will find, I cannot tell you how many times when I did this, I would get a text from people I had met 2 or 3 weeks previous at an open house that went through another open house I sent them, who did have questions about that open house. And they came to me because I provided it to them, rather than asking the agent who is holding the open house. Because now I've established myself as a value add to them, rather than somebody who's just asking, because now I'm giving. It's a mindset shift compared to how everyone else does things. One of the most important things you need to make sure you're doing with the follow-up is tell them what happened with the house that they came through. You are the holder of that information. Even if it's not your listing, it's somebody else in your office. ask the agent who had the listing, okay, they got 3 offers on it, or it's set, or they're going to do a price reduction. Keep them in the loop with that house. Hey, Tracy, it could be 2 weeks later. Hey, Tracy, just want to let you know you came through 123 Main Street. That's where I met you. That house just went in the contract. I just wanted to keep you up to date on the market. Month later, hey, Tracy, you came through 123 Main Street about a month and a half ago. Wanted to just keep you updated on the market. It just closed for this price. I don't know if that'll help you in your home search or not, but wanted to make sure you had the info. One level you can do to up that is update them on the homes you're sending them to. So if there's something crazy that happened with the house that you sent them in your follow-up, tell them about that too. Hey, Tracy, I'm sorry, I picked on you because your camera's on. So that's why you're the go-to today. Hey, Tracy, you'll never believe this. The house I sent you 2 or 3 weeks ago actually closed for $40,000 under list price. That's crazy in this market. I just wanted to make sure you had that information. So it's just keeping them updated on what they don't know. One of the other things we never think about with open houses is, do they own? So there's all kinds of ways we can figure this out. So if we get their name and we're having a conversation with them in the actual open house, we may find out if they own the house or not. So Emily's camera's on, so now I'm going to click on Emily. When they first come in, hey, Emily, are you guys looking in the neighborhood? Do you already live in the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera? On my sign-in sheet or whatever I'm doing, I'm making notes as soon as they start to walk through the house of what they told me, because I'm never going to remember 2 hours later. So I'm flipping that sign-in sheet over and I'm making notes. Emily came through, they own in the neighborhood. Now afterwards, I'm going back and doing my homework. Whether they don't tell me that and they sign in, I'm going to go to the county auditor site and I'm going to search their name and I'm going to find out if they own a house. Even if Emily tells me she owns a house, I'm going to do that so I can find her address, right? And now I can farm them because now I know they own. So now I have even more leverage and things to follow up with them about the listing market, the selling market, rather than just buying. So what I used to do is mail is for your seller follow-up because you have their address. So I'm never calling them, telling about the house I know they own, because to me, that's kind of creepy. They never told me about that unless we had the conversation. So I'm just going to drip mail. So maybe that's your typical mail follow-up. So it's like neighborhood stats. I would find out when they purchased the home and I would send them a purchase anniversary every year, a card. Hey, congrats on your purchase. You've lived in the home X number of years. The value since then has gone up 6%. You bought it in this year. This is what it would be worth generally this year, kind of thing. So that was always my plan. Mail drip with the selling, and then text and call with the buyer stuff. So any questions on any of that? And I promise you that'll work. I'm not from Columbus. I'm from 2 hours away, and I built my business on open house and note cards. So, and that was the script when I started using it. That's when everything flipped for me. Is that exact kind of follow up? Until I switched that, I did the typical. I'd follow up on Monday. Hey, what do you think of the house? And I never got any responses. So. Expireds are a huge opportunity right now too, because as the market sits, things are going to be expiring. Some people may cancel as we head into the holiday season, but don't just think of them as expireds. If we can get them to relist with us, great. That's like the obvious thing with expireds, right? Call them, use the scripts. We all know the scripts and everything. But ways you can think differently around expireds are, let's find a buyer for them, because chances are if they're expired now or they're canceling now, they're going to wait to relist until next spring. So we can have all that follow up with the, relist kind of thing, but use that knowledge to find a buyer for that house. Because if they're trying to sell before, whether they're off the market or not, I guarantee if they get the right price, they're going to sell again if it's the right situation for them. So how can we find a buyer for that house? You need to know the market and know those expireds, because now that becomes a pocket listing for you, right? Like it's not your listing, but you know about it. And chances are most other agents are just going to forget about it. They see it goes off the market and they forget, oh yeah, that house was for sale. But now, as long as you keep it fresh in your mind when you're talking to your buyers or your leads, or when you're doing an open house and a buyer comes in, oh yeah, well, actually, I have this listing that I know of at 123 Main Street. 123 Main Street gets sold a lot. I have this listing that I know of, 123 Main Street. I have no idea if you're interested in it, but it's not on the market right now. And I know, I have the seller's contact and I can get you in if it is something you're interested in. Again, you're providing them that value. Chances are, if you call that expired and you have an actual buyer who wants to come through it, the conversation is different than your typical expired scripts and everything. So,
Quick question.
yeah.
How are you actually getting their contact information then? Because obviously in the MLS you have the agent's information. What are you doing then to find their actual phone number or
Yeah, so the easiest way now is Forewarn, to be honest with you. So I don't know if in Kentucky, if you guys have Forewarn or not. That's the easiest way. But then there's like here in Columbus, we have Mojo Dialer through Rapid. So Rapid you can, scrub different information that way. The thing I don't like about the dialers and everything is usually you get like 7 or 8 numbers for it and you have no idea. And it could be, Emily, if you're the seller, it could be your husband's number or your husband's brother's number. Just because something's contacted, they're scrubbing like names and addresses and random things. So I used to do that when I did cold calls, and I'd get like nieces and nephews, and their theory is we should be able to then get them to give us the number of whoever. I'm just like, I'm not asking somebody who's not the person for somebody else's phone number. So now I use Forewarn. What's that?
My brother gets calls from me all the time. We're one number
Yeah.
off. And he's like, you have another person reaching out to me. Please call them and tell them to stop.
Yeah. So, but Forewarn's pretty accurate now. And if it's not accurate, you usually can do a little like tweaking and figure out what the actual number is. So, and I don't know if we're supposed to be using Forewarn for that, but there's nothing that Columbus Realtors has told me we're not supposed to be doing. So, one of the other things you can do is run ads that aren't specific to the property. So you could run ads, especially through command, super cheap, super easy, where you can say something along the lines of, I have a 4-bed, 3-bedroom house that's off market in this area. I have a list of homes that are off market that are match this criteria in this area if you do couple expired. So there's different ways you can run ads to create that FOMO of stuff that they don't know about. And really it's just stuff that expired off the market that's not on the market right now, that if you find the right person for them, that chances are they're going to sell. So the last one you can do with it is circle prospect. So if you don't like cold calling, this probably isn't for you, but really it's not cold calling. I don't look at it as cold calling. And this was something I had to wrap my head around. So if I know there's an expired in a neighborhood that's really desirable for whatever reason, like it's a move up neighborhood or the school district is really popular, I will use that information to circle prospect in other areas. So for example, here, let's use Gahanna. Gahanna has decent schools here. It's a desirable neighborhood. And right next to Gahanna is Blacklick. And Blacklick has not as desirable neighborhoods. And a lot of times you find people who live in Blacklick, that's a lower price point, will move up into Gahanna because they have kids or they want schools then or whatever that reason might be. So if I know an expired popped up in Gahanna, I'm going to go to one of the dialers, so a lender who has a dialer, Mojo Dialer, and circle prospect those numbers and just call. And I'm going to find a neighborhood in Blacklick that I know may or may not be interested in moving into Gahanna. And I'm going to call that neighborhood, and it's going to be a simple script of, hey, Emily, I have no idea if you're in the market, but I know a lot of times people in your neighborhood are looking for schools in Gahanna. I know this 3-bedroom, 4-bath house or 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in Gahanna that's not on the market. No idea if you're interested in moving in the next year or so or not, but I figured I'd see if you were. And chances are people are going to say, no, I'm not, but you'll be surprised how many times they say, well, we were thinking about moving, but not till next year. Or we were thinking about doing this, but now it's off the table for this. All because you're coming from a place of providing them value and you're not calling them, asking them when they're going to list their house. You're giving them something they don't know anything about. So it's just flipping that script with expireds. Does that make sense? All right. So social media. So this is one of the big ones. So stop being like everyone else on social media. So this is to your point, Tracy, a little bit with being more personal. There's only one of you, so let that come out, right? You are unique in your own way, no matter what that is. That's why people want to work with you. We get bent out of shape sometimes or worried that somebody's not going to like us because we do X or Y or Z. When in reality, the people who like us and our friends like us for what we do and who we are. So unless you're a mean person, chances are most of us all have a good sphere and friends. We can grow that by just being who we are on social media. So boring listing videos are the new norm now. So they're just like professional photos. So at least here in Central Ohio. So listing videos, everyone's doing them. They've now become just like listing photos. So everyone's watching those. So how can you stand out or be more personable in those videos? That's the key. So we can't just anymore, hey, I'm Josh. Welcome to 123 Main Street. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath house with a fenced-in backyard. Maybe it's, hey, I'm Josh, and this house is in Gahanna, and this is why I like this house. I don't even mention anything about the house. I just say, this is why I like this house, because now that person is going to watch the video to see that thing that you're talking about. Does that make sense? 3, if we're paying for the video, make sure it's evergreen. So what evergreen means is that you can repurpose that over and over and over again. So a lot of mistakes that agents make currently are that, again, it's, hey, I'm Josh, welcome to 123 Main Street. How can we repurpose that video that you can send to clients? One of the videos I made years ago, for example, was in Italian Village. So it was a condo. So instead of just talking about the condo, the first 20 seconds of the video, 30 seconds of the video was everything around that condo. So like all the different bars and restaurants. And what I used to do then is if I had somebody interested in downtown, I would send them that video, even though it was a listing video about that condo. I would say, hey, here's a video of stuff in Italian Village, and send that to them to see. And they would usually say, oh, that's cool. But now you're repurposing yourself as the authoritative figure of that area. You can also repurpose that same stuff for random leads you have or for when you go on listing appointments. So talk about what's around the house and think of different ways that you can use that video for that listing as leverage, because Gary always says what? Listings leverage. It's harder in today's world because before you used to get sign calls. Now your videos and your social media and your content are your sign calls. So how do we repurpose that? And then paid video, if you're paying somebody to do a nice polished professional video, it should be on YouTube. So one of the other mistakes agents make currently is everything in reel format. And by reel, I mean like Instagram reel format. So you could be repurposing that video with the address or the area, because YouTube is the second, may even be first now, search engine next to Google. So if somebody's searching for homes in Gahanna again, and you have videos that keep popping up with Gahanna in your titles or in your descriptions, now you're showing up on those searches, whether that's a video that you did 3 years ago or whatever it might be. So it really needs to be on YouTube too, not just Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And again, that's where you can start sending those links then to different leads and past clients. And when people are asking about stuff, it's super easy to send a link from YouTube. It's much harder to send something from Instagram or Facebook. So does that make sense with all that? I know you do stuff with video and everything, Emily.
I was gonna ask you a question about like old videos and listing videos that we would still have. If I haven't put them on YouTube, would it be inappropriate to go and put them on there now, even though the house is closed?
No, go for it and just title it, something that's around that,
Golden
put in the
something.
description. Yeah. Yeah. Like you could do it, what you could find with like, what area was it, for example?
For example, like Worthington or Worthington Hills.
So I would put it on there and you could put what you can find in Worthington for X amount, whatever it's sold for. And then in the description, use that as, this home sold in X, but this is how does that make sense?
Yep, it totally does.
Um, and then the last part is storytelling in either video. And either your video, your captions, or the photo. Sorry, I have to cough really bad. I'm trying not to cough all over everything. So tell the story, back to your point, Tracy, about what's going on. Karen Dallas is very, very good at this on social media and her pictures and stuff. She takes a selfie and tell us what her day was, or she'll take a selfie and saying, I'm going into the office to do this. And it's not use me, use me, use me. Here's, look at this listing. It's work related, but it's not work related. I used to do coffee mugs. I told myself one year I'm going to do more selfies. I hate selfies, so I made myself do it. And I found like, all right, well, I'm running out of stuff to take pictures of myself of. So I literally would always take them with a coffee mug in the office or wherever it might be, to the point where then I was like, oh, I can get coffee mugs and create different sayings on it. When I take the pictures, now they have a saying on it. So it's something a little different. People started reaching out to me and saying, how do I get one of those coffee mugs? Never in a million years would I thought somebody would want one of the coffee mugs from my picture. So I ordered a bunch of them, and then those coffee mugs started becoming incorporated into closing gifts. So I would give them a coffee mug filled with like little things, maybe a gift card and just little stuff like that. But that all stemmed from telling my story. And the stories would be like, when I got back from vacation, hey, back in the office working today, or whatever it might be. And in their head, again, perception is reality. Now I went from not just use me to Josh is so busy and Josh is working, and oh, I'm not bothering him because he's at the office, kind of stuff. So tell your story, no matter what that is, whether that's with a scary transaction that you had, or maybe it's a first time buyer who didn't think they were able to ever buy a home. That's what people want now. They don't want just the regular videos that everyone's kind of doing. So think about it in the regards, all the talking head videos that you see where it's some real estate influencer where they're just talking to you. That's a talking head video. How many of those do you actually watch now? Because everyone's doing them. There has to be a reason why you're stopping to watch that video. So does that make sense with all that? I think that is it. So video works. So like, here's mine. I've been doing video for years. So I promise you, I'm not just spitting new stuff. Like you can see 7 years ago, some of this stuff. So these were links that I would send to leads and things like that. So it works. So with that, any questions or anything? I'm gonna try and figure out how to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Tracy, Emily, anything else? Everyone else has their camera off, so you two are the ones who get picked on. Perfect.
Great.
All right, so done
Done.
9 minutes early. Go ahead, Emily.
No, I think this was great, and I'm gonna definitely take some of these ideas back, especially with open houses. I like the idea of sending them even 3 houses that are similar. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and on our MLS you can find them, but if not, don't be afraid to send them the Zillow stuff too. They're using Zillow anyways. Like that's a limiting belief in our own head. They're using it, just send it to them. Like they're looking at it anyhow. So
Yeah, I love it.
cool. Well, thank you guys for being on. Hope you have a good weekend this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, you too.
Have a good one.